Well, good evening, guys. All my friends across the country, across the world. My name is Sam Santalone. If it's your first time, I'm so glad you found me. I am a native of the Hampton Roads, Virginia Beach area, and I love helping people move to the area. And I love talking about the area and helping people figure out what to do if they're coming, because this is the time of year where people of the entire year, this is, I'd say, the largest window of time where people relocate, um, more than probably any other time of the year, between the end of February and the middle to end of June into sometimes into July. This is where that window starts. And I've been doing some assessing of, forecasting for the next 2, 3, 4 months and gearing up for what is going to be a very interesting spring season. And then going into the summertime too, because we've got a lot of different dynamics that are kind of countering each other and creating some friction that are making it very interesting to know what really is going to happen to not just the market, but how to go after the house that you might want if you're going to be moving to the area. And so that's one of the things I like to do is talk people through that concept, those ideas. And so tonight we're going to be talking about what the spring market might look like. I've seen some recent statistics and some information that I think is very worth showing to you, because I've been thinking a lot about, people ask me between the December, January, and February timeframe. A lot of times people ask me, when do the listings really start coming? Because people that come here like late in the end of one year, and they might be waiting for 2, 3 months for the right house. Well, what happens is, in that waiting period, there is, like, every day feels like an eternity because nothing new is hitting the market, or if it is, nothing that interesting. And there are a lot of reasons for that, but it happens every year. And one of the biggest reasons why it happens every year is because people that are trying to sell their house to get the most activity, the most people eyeballs seeing the house, and kind of timing even their own moving circumstances, is often during the springtime, March, April, May, and June. And they don't really want to list their house in November or December or January and all that, right? That's a pretty common thing, because again, if you're thinking about, hey, I want to move to the area and I want a good school district, or I want, a certain area that, I want to transition from one job to the other, a lot of times those transitions happen at the same time or similar times, right? So I think it's important to know that just as you're doing that planning yourself, people that are selling are thinking in those terms as well. So that between that December, January, February time period, you'll find almost nothing that's super exciting that hits the market. Now, you'll find some, but a lot of times you won't see too much of anything, and that really strikes strikes a fancy, right? And so people that are very selective on what they want to, where they want to move, which I am a big fan of being selective. If you know me at all, that is a big deal for me. But people that are, they might wait through those 2, 3 months and then think, is my house ever going to come up? Am I ever going to get a house that I'm going to like and time my move at all? They started early. What's going on? Well, like I said, not as many options to pick from, but the emotional waiting game is the hardest thing to take in the wintertime. And it's cold. It's, you don't want to go outside anyway. Sometimes it's not fun. It gets dark and you're sitting there sorting through Zillow or Redfin or whatever. And you're like, what? There's nothing new. And then, even especially if you're looking at Zillow and then you find out that half the things that you think are available on Zillow aren't, you go to Redfin and you're like, oh my gosh, they're actually sold. It's even more frustrating. So the question is, well, when are the houses going to come on the market? Is this a different year than any other year that's going to make, the market even, slower than before? And so what people right after 2020, and we all know what happened in 2020, right after 2020, house supply dropped, right? Well, house supply dropped, but not only did house supply drop, but the demand shot up, a lot up, right? So it made it like perfect storm. But if you go into the next like 2 or 3 years beyond that, so 2022 to into 23 in the last year, 24, the perception of the market kind of changed. Whereas before it was like demand was really high because the rates were really low. Well, rates then went up and tapered, they leveled off. Well, in the meantime, fewer people were selling even compared to the couple of years before in 21 and 20 and 22. I think my theory is a lot of times it's because, again, the rates aren't going any lower and people are not wanting to lose the rate that they have. So even more so, people are not wanting to do that. So I'm going to show you what the stats are looking like now relative to the last few years, as far as the amount of new listings that come on the market, because this is a very important statistic that I think if you didn't realize the past history, you would think that this is, well, number one is you think that this is a unique year because it feels slower. But number two is you might start thinking, well, if there are a lot more listings at the market, what's going to happen? Well, let me show you something. I'm going to share my screen, give you some context of what I think is happening in the market right now. It's very interesting to me. And if you're more like we're talking about the house dynamics and neighborhoods, we'll talk about some neighborhoods and some concepts there too. But I want to talk to you about this because this is going to affect, I think, how you will expect to go after a house in the next 1, 2, 3 months, or even in shorter term from that, right? So see here. All right, these are new listings in the this is 2025, just in January, right? This year is 272 listings. This is in Virginia Beach. I use Virginia Beach not because, again, I help people from Virginia Beach, Chesapeake, Suffolk, Norfolk, what am I missing? Portsmouth, Norfolk, all the way up to Williamsburg, right? But Virginia Beach, I think, is probably the one city that has the most information that's the easiest to track for the most people. So I use that as an example, but this can be the case for, I'd say a lot of the different areas, right? Or the cities or counties. You notice here that you see January in 2025, 272 new listings. Well, that's, less than 10 a day? Not a lot, right? Well, if you look at the last 2021 and 22, when the narrative was not many houses on the market, or even 2020, not many houses on the market, look at how many in January this year there were in relation to, let's say, January in 2021, 273, 272. Last year, January, 280, 2023, 254. And then going into 2019, 545. So in a pretty active, demand-wise time of the market, 2019 wasn't 2020 or 2021 by any stretch, but there were 545 new listings in January of 2019. Going back behind that, 2018, where are we at? Well, my mouse is massive right now. I was trying to show you. There you go. 455, is it? 455. And going on behind that, you can see the trend is about the same each year and kind of tapers off a little bit. But we are in the last 2 years have been the lowest amount of houses that have been new listings in January, or really in almost the entire, last year's May, the most popular year or a month that houses were being listed. Let's see, July and March of 2022, there were more listings than in May of 2024, which is like the peak. So why do I say all that? Number one is the market right now, there are so few listings in the market right now, new listings relative to what is, I'd say, typical to the area. And you don't really notice it because the last couple, 2-3 years before that, it was pretty low, but it's gotten lower. Now, in addition to that, that leads me to the next question, which is, and if you have any questions, I'm going to, let's see, where are you watching? Tell me where you're watching from, or you can, if you have questions, let me know and I'll answer, anything as best I can. So, if you're looking on here, so the question always, do I want to, or should I go after a house in February? Let's say I found what I think is a pretty good house, but it's not the perfect house. Do I get the house now? Or do I wait a month or wait 2 months to get the house that I think is the best possible one? Because, maybe you have until May to make a decision. You don't necessarily want to wait until the end of April to decide, and you might feel like you're being rushed, but you got a nice window there to find a really good house. So is this the one you should jump on? Because you're like, am I going to miss anything? Am I going to miss, am I going to, lose out on the 8 out of 10 house because I'll never find a 9 or 10 out of 10? Well, this could help you figure that out. So if you look at every year, I'm going to start, if my mouse will let me. So talking about February of a given year, and then I'll show you what happens in March, and then show you what happens. So 2015, March of 20 or February 2015, 428 houses listed. The next month, it goes up about 50% to 642 in March. Then 2016, same thing, to 539 up to 692. So what is that? That's 20% more. The year after that, 501, boom, 709. It's like 35, 40%, if I'm getting my net math right. February, 509, 2018, up to 689. So you're seeing a trend here, right? So 500, 662. And this goes up. The peak starts in March in all these months. So are the years. So I'm like, all right, well, what about 2020 was the one wild card, and we know why. In March, that's when people just stopped listing houses. Like it dropped in April. The first time that's happened possibly in a long time, like that many times through the peak of a season. But then you go 2021, 399, boom, 579. 2022, 344, boom, 500. 2023, 256, 384. It's still 50%, but now 384 is still like, it's almost what February was the year before that, right? And then this is the month where, okay, 2024, it dropped, but even then it bumped up in April. That's the first year that it actually did not shoot up in March. Now, is that a blip in the radar? It's possible. It's possible because this is the first year that has the lower listings relative to the rest of these years. It's possible. We could be starting a new trend if we stay this low in listings. But I still want to use some pragmatism here in terms of what I think is realistic based on past experience. While the most recent month or year could be the start of a new trend, I'm still going to base a lot of this off of the last several years, realizing that, hey, the best chance for the market in the spring to start is going to be March. Now, because of the amount of listings that have come up recently, one could argue that it might not be right away in early March. It might not be as many in March period, but I do think that you're going to start seeing more houses in March, much more relative to what people will find in, February or January. I think that's an important thing to know because that tells you, okay, well, should you go after, Gustavo, sorry, let me stop here, answer your question. Yes. Oh, nice. Yeah. Thank you, Gustavo. Actually, well, Mitch, I appreciate you saying that, and I do love restaurants, and that's one of the reasons I talk about it because I think if I like them, then everybody else does too, right? I mean, the restaurants, come on. But yeah, that's a good idea. Thanks, Gustavo. So the question is, should you wait and maybe go after something in April, May, or maybe just target March and say, hey, good chance that we can find the right house in March? My argument will still and always be, unless the data over time shows me something different, March is the first month where things start really changing. And if this year is different, that will start telling me there might be a new trend. But again, I'd say the norm is the past decade. And part of this is going to be, this is such a new time because of the last 3 years before this, that through the rates through the whole, market off. That was the biggest jump in, I think, 2023 or 22, the biggest jump in interest rate that fast, almost, I think, ever. And so that just almost hits like a reset button for a lot of the market dynamics. So we'll see. But if you're trying to wait for the right house in like February, it's been 3 months and you're getting frustrated, I always still urge you, don't feel like you got to rush. If someone's saying you got to do it now, I'm skeptical about that. Now, there's always a drawback to waiting. The one reason why I would say now is a better time is if you find a house that is, again, either awesome, the house that you want, or close to it. Because I do think now people more than ever are being more selective as to the house that they want to go after. I think my theory is they're willing to go after them. And I've seen that house prices still increase. I mean, look, I'll show you going back to my statistics. I'm going to share my screen again. Median sales price. People asking, or is the market going to sag? Well, I'm not seeing it. And I'll show you what I'm seeing here. Like as far as median sales price, it's last year, I thought we were going to plateau. Boom. Nope. Wrong. I was. And I still think there's just a little bit of a plateau maybe, but again, it zigzags every year. And so I'm not necessarily surprised about the zigs up and down. Again, that's part of how the winter works. And it's all about what the peaks are of each year and how that's going to end up being compared to last year. And right now we're still seeing that increase, not drastic, but we're still seeing an increase. So I don't really, so taking the example back to a specific house, where the uniqueness about a house as opposed to a market is that in a like a stock market is when you're buying a stock, you're buying, a thing like something you have no real emotional attachment to. Well, you shouldn't. My theory is, but you're not living in it, right? But a house is unique. Every Apple share is the same. There's no different type of Apple share. Maybe there is. I don't think there is. But there's no triangle shaped Apple share, and then there's like a circle shaped Apple share. You're just buying shares on your trade platform, right? But with houses, it's different. One has a big master or primary, sorry, or one might have a nice big screen and porch. Each one's different. And so the differences make each individual house almost like its own market within the neighborhood, within the city, within the area. So you can't necessarily take the general market dynamics and attribute it to each individual house the same way. You want to use that as an example, like as a guide, but you also don't want to commit yourself to the general averages and then base things off of that too much. Do it based on the house that you really want. Go after the house that you want. I believe that you will rarely regret it if you can afford it. If it's within your budget, go after the house that you want, and not just, don't settle for like a 5 out of 10 house just because you just want to solve the immediate problem of getting out of the place that you're in because you want to move. I feel like that of anything is the biggest regret I think people have if people do that, is to move too soon because they want to solve the short-term problem. And solving short-term problems usually leads to long-term frustrations. And this is a great example in a house. But my point is that with markets, with houses, each house is different. So if you get excited about a house, I know people say, well, treat it like a business decision. It's not an emotional transaction. I get that it is just a treat it like a transaction. You want to take the emotion out of it so you don't do something that you would regret. But there's nothing wrong with loving a house, right? There's nothing wrong with that. It's good to love a house. It's good to want a house, a specific house. And there's just a balance, right? Everything's about balance. So I just think that taking that in consideration when you're making an offer is good, but don't worry about, if you got to wait, don't just settle because you weren't trying to fix that short-term problem. To me, that's an emotional reaction to a scenario that you're trying to get out of. But holding your breath is hard, but it really, I've seen that so many times pay off, whether it be an extra few days, an extra week or two, even an extra month. Waiting that extra amount of time, to me, has always bounced back or has always paid off. So that being said, taking that and going to the next thing, which is another concept I want to talk to you about, which is perception of what you think you should do and how you think you should get a house. A lot of people that will look for a house will make decisions based on what they've heard that they should do, based on past experiences. Well, 5 years ago I did this and this worked. Or like, well, I would never do this because, if you have a $500,000 house, well, I don't want to, if the house is worth $550, I don't want to offer $530 because they offered $500. I don't. It's too high. Well, the reality is it might not be, but the people priced it too low. That happens a lot. So my point is that the perception. Make sure you don't mix your perceptions with or confuse perceptions with reality. And if you see that there's differences, okay, maybe you have to rethink that decision process, if you will. Like, so for example, if what's a good example? I had a good example. Man, I can't remember it now. But number one is going back to the graph, talking about the new listings. When you see new listings being lowest in the last 2 years, perception wise, the year 2-3 years before that, the perception was house inventory was low. Now it's even lower, but we don't think about that because it's like it last 2-3 years, it was talked about as being low. So it doesn't feel like it's even lower. Well, it actually is. So dragging that over to an actual house situation, again, it's like if you see a house that's $550, you might tell yourself, I will only offer $570 or $530 or whatever. But if you love a house and you think someone else might offer a little bit more, this might sound reckless, but it's like, well, you might have to recalibrate your mind to maybe do something different if you have to change your mindset to make the strategy work for what you want, for the offer you want to make. You have to change those numbers. So I guess all I have to say is it's a roundabout way of saying, don't be so married to a perception or what you think you should do, because that may have to change, and be willing to be flexible when you see a house that you like. That's a good way of explaining it. So I'm gonna have to unpack that a bit more, but that was my initial thought. Now, in doing that, in the whole idea of a threshold concept, and then the idea of, okay, when I go after a house, is that the house is, let's just say it's 500, because I like using that round number. It's very easy to work off of. So with round numbers of like 500, if the house hits the market for that price, what do I do when I'm making an offer? Well, if you're the only person that's making an offer, it's one story. In those scenarios, you can do a lot more different things creatively to tailor the offer to benefit you. But if there are multiple offers, I want to talk about quickly the threshold of what I see people do when they make offers, and what I would suggest people do to maybe kind of outthink the market a little bit. And a lot of people that, if you've been in the real estate market before, you bought houses before, you might know some of this stuff, but I think it's a helpful thing, because there's a tension between what is atypical to what the mindset or the mind does and what's common. And it's easy to kind of drift into what common mind thought processes go on. And meaning, for example, if you make an offer over asking price for a house that's 500, someone might say, well, I'll offer 510. Well, good chance that people that offer a round number, someone else is probably doing the same thing. So always, think about, like, what type of threshold do I think other people that might offer aggressively on a house, what thresholds do I think people are going to be having conversations about, and then try to outthink them and beat those thresholds. And when I say thresholds, what I mean by that? Well, thresholds are almost like mental barriers that people will say, I'll only go to X dollar amount, or I'll only go to, if it's 500 listing price, I'll only go up to 515, or if it's 600, I'll only go to 620 or whatever. But sometimes the extra $1,000 or whatever can make the difference, or 500, whatever it is, can make the difference between getting a house and not. But people that just kind of throw in the, random number, or that round number, or they don't crack that next threshold, people say, okay, I'll do this, but I'm not going to do that. Well, think about that concept again and say, okay, well, why am I not willing to do this over this X number? There's a good chance that someone else might be thinking the exact same thing. And if that is the case, you might want to break through that threshold. Obviously, you can think that to every threshold up to $1 million or whatever in a $500,000 house. There's a line where that's too much. But just keep in mind, like, what do you think is like, okay, and then talk to your real estate agent. What do you think is like, oh, this is the max? And if you're talking, like, let's say it's an $800,000 house, thresholds are more like in the $25,000, $50,000, $75,000, $100,000 thresholds. But if it's like a $300,000 house or $400,000 house, maybe it's 415, 410, 420. Then you go, like, again, every 25, 50,000 still matters, but maybe not as high as you go lower in sales price, right? And then it becomes more like a $5,000 or $10,000 threshold, or 2,500 or 5,000. So kind of tailor it also to the price range that you're looking in. But it's a very important concept, guys. It's just so important. I think people forget that all too often, and they get more focused on their own mind of the max or relative number they think is, okay, this is a good number, and then they don't realize that other people are probably thinking the same thing, or could be thinking similar things. So it's another side comment or concept that I think is very important with multiple offer situations. And another thing I want to mention thresholds wise is, if you're talking in, like, say it's the 800 price range or 750 price range, one threshold that I don't think people often forget too is that there is they're called jumbo loans. Jumbo loans are, once you go over a certain price, the cost to get a loan for that price is more expensive, and they call them a jumbo loan, which means that there are less people that are willing to give loans for that amount of money. And right now, that jumbo loan threshold is for $806,500, I believe. Yeah. And so if someone has a loan over that, it's going to cost them more to get that loan. Why does that matter? Well, it matters because if you make an offer on a house that it's 800, there's a good chance that you're not going to be going too much. The winner might not be going over 850 or 870 or 860 because, if it's a conventional loan, they might do like a certain percentage down, and that percentage might be over that jumbo loan rate. So the higher you go over that threshold, the less of a chance someone might be offering that number. So you can use that as a kind of a pretty significant threshold, because that's a spot where people that really don't want to pay that extra money in the loan, if they don't have the extra cash, they're not going to go that high because they want to max out and don't go over that jumbo loan number. So that's a pretty key number if you're getting into that eights range with jumbo loans. And you can talk to your loan officer about that also. Now, all that stuff, what I want to also talk quickly about is stuff happening in the area. And one thing of note that I think might really affect not just demand of houses, but also traffic in parts of Virginia Beach is, I'm going to show you on the map that there's something just happened. I believe it was yesterday. And I heard some talk about it for a while, but I wasn't sure if it was real. I heard some conflicting rumors and comments about it from people I know. So I'm going to share my map or share my screen to show you the map. And so there we go. You see me on the map. Okay. So you got Town Center, right? All right. Town Center, you got Pembroke Mall. That's an old mall that they've turned it into a whole different thing, or turning it into a different thing now. But you've got Pembroke Mall and you've got Town Center. Okay. Well, south of Virginia Beach Boulevard, you got here. This is the proper Town Center right here. A lot of nice stuff in Town Center. If you've never seen it before, it's more of a chainy kind of a place, but I like Ghent for like the local stuff in Norfolk, but Town Center's got some cool stuff, and being close to there is very helpful. And the neighborhoods around here, like Thalia, for example, Aragona, which I'm not as big a fan of. It's fine. Pembroke Manor over here, Pembroke Meadows. I'm sorry, over here. And going down to like the Larkspur, going over to Windsor Woods. I love Windsor Woods over on this side. Like all these areas through here, Windsor Woods, Windsor Oaks, going up through Thalia, going up towards Little Neck, all these areas. Being close to Town Center is very helpful and very easy to get to. Cool restaurants and whatnot. We love Cava. Where's the Cava? Right there. There it is, Cava. Well, next to Cava, or down the street from Cava, so you have this building right here, Spirit Halloween. It's not that anymore. It used to be a Bed Bath and Body Works. So show you that is not Bed Bath and Body Works. There it is. That is Bed Bath and Beyond. I'm sorry. Store closing. Yep, it's gone. This is gone. Okay. What is going to be coming here is Trader Joe's. Trader Joe's is coming to Town Center. That's exciting for some people, not as exciting for some other people. And the reason I say that is I'll tell you in a minute, but Trader Joe's, part of the reason why it matters is because Trader Joe's, the only other one, is in Hilltop over here. And Hilltop kind of had the monopoly on those like kind of like unique or in demand kind of hip rush stores, mainly Whole Foods and Trader Joe's. Here Trader Joe's was right where we at. There's Walmart. Where's Trader Joe's? There's right here. Trader Joe's there, and across the street is Whole Foods. Where's Whole Foods? There, Whole Foods. So Whole Foods and Trader Joe's would made Laskin Road kind of like a stable for that. Well, people would come from a lot of places to get to Trader Joe's, and it's a very busy Trader Joe's. But going back to Virginia Beach in the Town Center area, we're getting a Trader Joe's, and well, where's Cole? I'm sorry, it's Cole's. Hello, there it is. Right here. And so that's going to, I think it's going to be more of a people from Norfolk, people from Chesapeake might end up going to this one as opposed to driving over to Hilltop, because it is kind of far feeling to go all the way to Hilltop. So it's going to make it easier for people on this side of Hampton or the Southampton Roads area to get to Trader Joe's, especially Western Branch. Like it's an extra 15 minutes to get from Western Branch over to like Laskin Road, 12 minutes or so. So knocking that some time off there. So it's pretty cool. Now, the drawback is that Independence Boulevard is one of the most annoying intersections or exit on ramps, off ramps in the area. Like, so if you're coming up Independence right here, I bet you if I just drop a pin, you're going to see just traffic. not bad. But I mean, so this is kind of the problem right here. Yeah. This is just kind of your basic. This is not that bad right now. It's fine, but it does get frustrating because see what happens is cars come off the on-ramp. You've got this barrier right here. And so you got people trying to merge over, which they don't actually have to do that in some cases or a lot of cases because there are two lanes that go around to the interstate. But they got cars here trying to merge. Got the blinker on, got the blinker off. That's a great picture right there of what happens. But imagine adding more cars during rush hour or whatever. So people trying to get over in this car, anyways. So people doing that. And then you keep going. And I hope it comes backed up over here. Oh, I can't get there. All right. So you see, there you go. See that? So you've got cars backed up. Then you have another on-ramp or off-ramp here that merges over here. But then you've got these lanes over here that are blocked by this barrier. These are all either trying to get over, go straight. These guys are trying to go this way or that way. These guys are trying to get over here and then all the way over here. So can I do this any worse? There we go. So you get to the stoplight here. Well, people zoom over. They try and merge. They go across. They also have to merge before they get to the stoplight. They try to at least. I don't know if you'd say you're supposed to. And then you guys try and find your way across. And now it's like barren. This is like Sunday morning, I guess. But it gets trafficy all the way to town center is my point. And it's the same in some cases, some ways on the other side here. It's super frustrating. And then getting off on 264 is even crazier, like especially rush hour. Can I see the overhead? Yeah. 264 right here. The on-ramp here can back up a lot, going all the way around here, like in rush hour. It's just a mess. So what does this do? Well, adding Trader Joe's to this means more cars going to the same exact place that all these other places are going to. And then on top of that, the road getting on Columbus Street, getting from here over to Trader Joe's, Constitution, all these streets are going to, I think, back up even more. So Constitution comes around here. You have multiple ways to get there, but they're all, I think, going to be, none of them are that wide and big. I think it's going to be jam packed for traffic. So benefit, I think people that have an easy way of getting to Trader Joe's, it may bring up some demand for houses around here. I think there's a possibility of that a little bit. But you might find the ancillary drawback is traffic all through Holland Road, Independence, 264, all through here, because they're going to be open through rush hour, right? So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. But it's happening. There's no two ways about it. And greetings from the Lynn Haven Sailing Mary. Cool. Hey, Ricciona, is that the right way to say your name? I'm sorry if I said it wrong, but greetings from Lynn Haven, Salem area. I was just talking to somebody about the differences between Lynn Haven and Salem today. Interesting. And there are some differences, and the fact that you even mentioned that, it's interesting that you say that now. But I like both areas for different reasons. There are some reasons why I don't like both. There's drawbacks to everything, but I don't like parts of each one for certain reasons. But price factors into that to a certain degree. But very cool. So anyway, so I want to talk to you about Trader Joe's. I think that is an important thing to keep in mind. And close enough, no worries. Okay. Fair enough. I tried. I was willing to take to expose myself and embarrass myself. People say my last name crazy all the time. Sansalone. I've being in the world for 40 years. I would, I say it the way I think it should be said, but many people will say it so many different ways. So I understand. But back to, I do think the Trader Joe's thing is a bigger deal than I think people make it out to be. And I think the traffic thing could be a big deal too. So we'll see how that goes. And if maybe this might force the city to do some other infrastructure things around the town center area. Not terribly sure that, I mean, they just design a lot of stuff around town center. So I would imagine that they would have factored this in as far as how important new infrastructure would be to all these new cars to town center. But one other thing I want to mention too is I'll probably share my screen back again. So if you do go to Trader Joe's and if you move here, let's do this. So another way in is this road, Beasley Drive. So what I do sometimes is, so there's PetSmart right here. So I go to this PetSmart, and because we have 2 cats, and I go to this one for food. So what I do is I turn into, is this Beasley Drive right here, and I turn into PetSmart. Well, when I leave, I don't necessarily want to come out and try and deal with all the Independence or Virginia Beach Boulevard traffic. I'll cut through Beasley Court here and go back around what is now going to be Trader Joe's and cut around, go this way, right through Town Center. Now I'm not so sure if that's going to be a good idea, but if it is, this could be another back way around. There are multiple ways out of here. So they may have considered that when they designed or decided not to do anything to change the infrastructure of the area, because there was maybe a lot of ways to kind of breathe, not feel like your area is your parking lot's going to get super congested. But we will see, because the Trader Joe's, there is a lot of information about how many people and activity and how many cars go through the Laskin Road area. And so Trader Joe's there it's a decent sized one, but this could be even a bigger one. But like Laskin Road, a lot of reconstruction, like new, like knocking off. There's what do they call them? What's the word for service roads? Like those side, almost like the way that I was explaining to you on Independence Boulevard, the way that there are merging lanes, and then you got the barrier and then more lanes. It's kind of like the way it was in Laskin, but just less speed. So they're converting those into just regular lanes, which is great, but they're changing a lot of infrastructure in Laskin Road, and I'm wondering if they might do the same thing in some ways around Town Center. But Amanda Gore, I live in Elizabeth River Shores. I assume you mean River Shores, not Rover Shores. What do you think about this area? River, not right. I love it. So if people are asking where Elizabeth River Shores is, I'm going to show you on the map where that is. I'm going to do it here. There we go. Where are we at? So I love this area. I have a client that lives in the area, and I like it because, what's a good way of saying it? It's a nook that you don't realize is a nook, right? Like people drive by it a lot. And I love like the fact that if you come off of a main road, you don't think of a neighborhood being there. And actually anything around this south part of 264, I think is great. Now I know people that live in the area and they're like concerned because a lot more construction's happening in the area. And they're like, okay, I'm not sure if I like that. I get that. But in general, again, for the price range, right? 300s, 400s, I like it. It's also close to Costco. So anyways, but I'm a fan of the area, generally speaking. And again, I just like being near Costco too. So maybe I'm biased. Bill, hey, Bill, you're welcome. Welcome, Bill. Good to talk to you. Good to see you. A second Trader Joe's is so close is very interesting. Yes, I agree with you. And we'll see, right? We'll see. You're welcome. Yeah. Awesome. Very cool. I'm glad that I hope maybe hopefully I mentioned your neighborhood before, because I do like it, and hope we enjoy it. And I don't really see any near Costco. Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those places where I think that because it's kind of overlooked as far as the demand of, or not demand, just the viewpoint of, you don't really see it when you're driving by. I think it can be a nice little nook for a while. And I think it's a great place that people that live there for a long time. And I can see why, So anyway, if you guys have any more questions, please let me know. My voice is doing pretty well, but at any point in time, it might be telling me that it's time to call it a night. But if you have any more questions or comments or things you need help with, or information about the area, market stuff, let me know. But I do think that just as a general, the main thing I wanted to talk about was that this is the time to don't rush it. February becomes March very fast. I mean, goodness. Hey Sandra, you're welcome. Very, very welcome, and happy to help you. If you have any more questions, let me know. And I'll just make a point here is, this is my email address. And so if you want to email me, or call me, text me, I'll answer as fast as I can. If I can't or whatever, but so email, phone number, website too. You search there if you want to, or we can set up a search for you too. But I do think that the main thing is, if you're going to be moving to the area, relocating in the next several months, let me know now, because I want to make a plan for you in a certain plan for when you get here to kind of check areas out. I think that's an important piece of the moving process is that first trip, if you're going to be doing that. If not, it's even more important in my mind, the preparation beforehand. So let me know as soon as you can if you plan on coming to the area. So, oh, sorry, what's your email? There it is. It's funny. Did you ask me that right before I posted it? I didn't see it. That's funny. That's my email address right there. So, what else? Oh yeah, just don't rush through. Don't rush to get a house just because you feel like you're on borrowed time because it's February. If you have time, don't be afraid to use it. The only thing to know is if you do wait until into March, April, May, there are more people that are going to be doing the same thing. So you do kind of act with the masses at that point. There's no perfect way around this, right? You can't get the best deal in the most active time because that's the whole point of it being the most active time is there are more people, which means usually, unless there are a lot more listings, there's going to be still supply demand curve dynamic happening. And it can, just because it's springtime doesn't mean the demand's going to go shoot through the roof, because if there are more houses on the market, the demand supply curve might be the same. But generally speaking, I think you'll find that springtime becomes a bit more active and competitive. So just know that if you're waiting until March, April, May, it's okay. And if it's to get the house that you want, good. But it might cost you a little bit more, and you have to be okay with that, to be honest with you. More likely than not. So yeah, that's it for tonight. If you have any more questions, again, let me know. Phone number, or you can email me. And I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And if you want to relocate to the area, that's what I do. Again, let me know, and I'll do whatever I can to kind of help start that planning process with you. That to me is, again, the most important part. Each step, each facet, kind of the entirety of like how to go after the right house from wherever you're at. There's some steps I want to make sure I'll walk through that with you. And especially if you haven't bought before, but even if you have, kind of navigating the buy sell process, all that stuff. So let me know. And I hope otherwise. It's Wednesday. It's getting warmer. I'm very excited because I would say I'm not a golfer. I play golf. I love golf. Not very good yet, but it's getting warmer. I'm very excited. I want to be able to play if I have time, which I don't always have time, but I like golf. It's getting warmer. I'm very excited. Springtime means March Madness. It means springtime. It means the flowers, all the stuff. I mean, green grass. I get to water the grass again. Anyway, very excited about this coming year, 2025. And if you have questions, let me know, and I will see you on the next video, which is every Wednesday, by the way, every Wednesday night.